Hey guys, Martin here bringing you Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we are going to be taking a look at the updated tier list for the top 10 Dokkan Fest TURs. I still like to do my lists without the Easy A's. I know some people do combine them together, but I think it does very dramatically change the field quite a little bit. Like, shout out to my boy Minato, one of the other hosts of the Slot 1 Super podcast. I know that he recently did a TUR tier list, and I noticed that, like, obviously he combines the Easy A's and the non-Easy A's, and so his list obviously looks very, very different because the like, I think almost 3/4 of his like top 10 are all Easy Aid TURs, with only a few of the non-Easy A ones making the list. So I do like to keep them separate. As always with my tier lists, you guys know, if you watch all of these when they come out, I say the same thing. This is all based on my own personal experience with the game. Sometimes, you know, you might get really good RNG with a unit. I always get bad RNG with a unit, so I'm going to think that they're worse than you are. And obviously you can let me know down below in the comment section. It's just my opinion at the end of the day. If you think that the placements are wrong for any reason, do let me know down below why you think so. Every tier list video is basically the same. There's always a few people that give some really good feedback about why they think some of the placements are wrong or should at least be shifted like slightly. And then there's always at least one person who can't come with any actual arguments or anything and always just makes themselves look like a fool. So we'll see if we can see you down below in the comments yet again. But we are going to jump straight in. And we're going to start off a little bit differently with this one because I put this guy somewhere in the list last time and was trying to explain the multiple different reasons why he's better than or worse than kind of the units all around him. So at this point I literally have just decided to give Int Fat Boo an honorable mention at the beginning of the video, and even though technically it is at the bottom, like below the number 10, I've just given him his own spot on the tier list. Like, he doesn't even have a number. I just made a tier that says Int Fat Boo because this guy can still be used in difficult content now, like with his cheese strategy, right? Like even off leader skill and things like that, right? Where you basically just have him die on his first appearance, then on his second appearance he has a Ghost Usher, and then by the time he comes back around again, you could be looking at, even if he was on turn 1, he's not going to be coming back around again until like turn 7, and by that point you can potentially have other units on the team that can have full rotation protection abilities or any other sorts of abilities that can help this guy to then not get killed again. And of course on teams where he is getting the leader skill buff, you can still take advantage of his mechanics and then him not just be a guaranteed death sentence when he comes back around after that Ghost Usher turn. So this guy is still really good, but like obviously in his individual performance, if we were comparing him to the other TURs on the list, like damage output, there's not really many of them that he's going to be better than. Like defense, he is a stacker, so it does take him a while to build up to high levels of defense, but he's certainly not better than like some of the other stackers that we'll talk about who are on the list. So he's just in a really weird sort of position to place in like a top 10 list because he's definitely worse than I would say probably almost every unit on the list in terms of his performance, but then you could argue in certain events he just has more value than some of the other units on the list because of his revive and then Ghost Usher shenanigans. So I think it's really hard to place him in a top 10 list, but let me know where you think he should be. Obviously once we get to the end and we've broken down the units that I've placed like 1 to 10, let me know where you think he should slot in between those units, right? Because I think it's very hard to pinpoint specifically like this is where he goes because everybody below him is worse and everybody above him is better, when I think his uses are very, very situational. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. So coming in at number 10, we have the brand new Tech Kaioken Goku. I don't know if some people will be mad that he's this low. Some people might, I mean, some people might even be mad he actually made it into the top 10 in the first place. But I think the unit I had at number 10 previously was Tech Vegeta from Saiyan Day. And you could probably argue there are some events where he probably would still be better, like the Festival of Battles. But a lot of the really difficult events in the game now, even though they do go on a little bit longer, they hit hard enough in the first couple of phases that Vegeta definitely is a bit of a liability, like early on, right? He really needs to be stacking for a good few turns before he becomes really, really defensively solid. And obviously his attack stats don't start off out as anything too crazy. But yeah, this guy, he's at number 10, just because I think most people would agree, even if you think he is maybe being overhated, I think most people would agree that he is very disappointing. I think he may be probably one of the worst Golden Week Dokkan Fest that we've had released for quite some time, which is obviously really disappointing considering how good the Golden Week units have been for the last couple of years. This guy is just... I think the biggest problem that he has is that he is just nothing impressive, right? One of the things we talked about when I made a video in the past, like not long after it had come out, I made a video discussing like the Festival of Battles, right? And what I don't particularly like about it, what a lot of people don't particularly like about it. And one of the things I said about it is that it commits the ultimate sin that an event in a game like can commit, and that is that it's boring, at least in my opinion, right? And I think this Goku commits the ultimate sin for like a brand new released unit in that he just isn't anything special. Like, he isn't coming out and like being an absolutely dominating force in any particular aspect. Like, he doesn't have an insane leader skill, right? Like, full power is a good category. Reps of Universe 7 is decent for the most part, like with some of the buffs that it's gotten over the last like few months. But like the combination, it's not a crazy team for sure. His offense isn't crazy. His defense isn't crazy. Like, he doesn't have any sort of like crazy gimmick where like in a specific event he'll be completely invincible or like doing some like insane levels of damage. He just doesn't really do anything special, which I think is the most disappointing thing about him. Someone described him in one of the streams, and it's a phrase that kind of sticks with me when I think about this unit, is that he's a glass cannon without the cannon, because his defense is really not good enough for the current meta in terms of the most difficult content. But that's not the end of the world if he really was like the true definition of a glass cannon. I like that units have different roles on the teams. You guys know I've talked about this over the years. My favourite unit when he came out was STR LR Final Form Cooler, because even though he could have those turns where he could let you down defensively, like, he was putting out so much damage that it's like the risk reward thing, right? The reward was worth the risk. Whereas with this Goku, it feels like the reward is not worth the risk, right? Like, on the turn where he has his standby and he transforms and we like turn the whole orb field into tech, he gets that cool, I think it's a really cool design where he will automatically dodge the attacks in slot 1 to guarantee that he gets that one big attack off. Sometimes like he can get an additional as well, right? But he gets those big attacks off and then he gets hit and dies, which is his whole design because he's got low defense. He dies, gets the counter attack, gets the revive. I have nothing wrong with that aspect of his design whatsoever, but like on that turn, especially considering he gets a buff per orb obtained and he changes the entire orb field, you pick up 23 orbs and then you pretty much guarantee like you then die after that, right? On that turn, at like rainbow level 10 links with a good link partner, on that turn where he's picked up the entire orb field and then is going to deliver this big attack and then die, like, he should be dropping like at least like a 40 to 50 million attack stat, I think, on that turn. Which, considering the power creep of some of the units that we've seen, and not even just the units, but the events, and how much HP bosses have now, like, him doing that for that one turn, where he gets a guaranteed dodge in slot 1, drops a 50 mil, then dies, and then revives, like, that, it doesn't make him OP. Like, even if he was dropping a 50 mil attack stat on that turn, that wouldn't suddenly put him at number 1, right? And yeah, the fact that, like, the big thing that's the difference between him and Hit is that he has to have all allies in the same turn be reps of Universe 7 to get 70% attack and 30% crit chance. And because he's a unit that like is supposed to do damage, him not having that makes him considerably worse, which means if you're not running him on the reps of Universe 7 team, then he is considerably worse. Whereas Hit, only doesn't get a scouter, which is a great ability, but doesn't take away from what he's actually doing on the team, right? So this guy just overall massively disappointing. I've got him at number 10 because I just really, I'm not in any way like impressed by this guy. I mean, the animations are pretty cool. I know some people don't like all of them, but OST's cool. Like aesthetically, he's nice, but yeah, he's just not a great unit. Nothing impressive really about him whatsoever. So he's at number 10. And then at number 9, I put the Angel Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Now, I do my tier lists now where, whilst I still do the 1 to 10 format, I do colour the tiers. So any units that are in the same colour tiers, I feel like you could make arguments that they could be switched around. I did put this guy in the same colour as the Tech Kaioken Goku, because this guy is obviously starting to age quite badly when it comes to longer events. But in some of the short events, he's still really, really good, right? Like, battle hardened formidable foes, he can stun, he's got that really good damage reduction for the first couple of turns, so there are certain events where he can still be really good. Whereas I feel like Tech Kaioken Goku, he doesn't have like a standout event where you're like, okay, this is the event where you got to use this guy because he's super good. Whereas at least Super Saiyan 3 Angel Goku does have that. But then, of course, as the events go on a bit longer and he starts to lose all that damage reduction, I mean, you could probably argue that like post-revival, this guy is better than Angel Goku later on in those events for sure. But obviously, like, if we're talking something like Battle Hardened Formidable Foes or like Extreme Super Battle Road, like turn 1, this guy's definitely better than the Kaioken Goku. So I put him at number 9. Nothing really else to say about him. He's just been a solid unit. The fact that he's a year old now and can still scrape onto the list because of relevancy in a specific type of event, I think just shows how well he was designed. But yeah, he's still at number 9 for me. I think there are, like I say, those arguments you could make for him being better than Tech Kaioken Goku in certain situations, and then other situations where you could argue that Kaioken Goku is better, but he is at number 9. Number 8, we have Tech Buhan. Tech Buhan is a unit that, to be honest, I feel like I do need to use him a bit more. Like, his team hasn't had a crazy amount of buffs recently, and he's a character that I know he came out towards the end of last year. He's not returned on a banner. So he's not like a hot new unit. We haven't used him for a while. Like, his team hasn't gotten crazy buffs. He's got some irritating parts of his design. Like, you want to get his standby, get the domain, get those attacks in, get him stacked up, and then post-transformation, he's way more impressive. You want to get that going like as early as possible, but without having the full rotation of power absorption, you have to wait until turn 6 for that to be the case. And so, like, in some events, he's not going to look very good in those few early turns, and especially now with events being a lot more difficult early on, there are times where he certainly can seem a bit lackluster, but he is very good. He's got a very good link set. Obviously, when it comes to being like, you know, the Buhan, like Majin Buu Ultimate Gohan, you've got the Int Easy A1 or Super Easy A1, who I would say arguably is probably better in almost every way than this guy, right? Not that it matters in most events now, right? Like, it's only really Easy A's you can't run units with the same name, but this guy is good. I just find, like, on a lot of different team builds, like if I'm running Demonic Power or Worldwide Chaos and I'm using a bunch of like Buu units, like I will always use the Int Buhan before this guy, and then once I've put like a Kid Buu on there or something, maybe Int Fat Buu for those revive shenanigans, like this guy kind of ends up being one of the Buu units that doesn't make the cut. And maybe he would if like Int Buhan didn't exist, but yeah, he's still a solid unit. Like, he's still at number 8. Like, again, there's so many TURs in the game, like him being at number 8 doesn't mean I think he's bad. And you know, we could be one release away. We could finally get an LR Kid Buu who suddenly makes this guy super, super relevant again, right? Because this guy was one of the last, really, to release as we got to the end of last year. One of the last 200% leaders. So if we get like a LR Kid Buu finally comes out and he's like a 220% margin power leader that gives all allies support and damage reduction, like this guy's going to be right back up there and be like a must run on that team. But for now, he's kind of faded into obscurity a little bit. Not to suggest that he's not good enough anymore. He's just not really a unit that people talk about much anymore, right? So he's at number 8. I did put him at the next color tier above the Angel Goku and Tech Kaioken, so let me know what you think, whether he's on their level or if he is above them. But he's at number 8, and at number 7 we have Lord Slug. I do think they are quite close. You could make arguments for switching them, which is why they're in the same color tier. I think Demonic Power is a really good team. at the moment, and with movie bosses, but as part of his leader skill, the fact that you can throw in characters like Tech Broly and stuff if you really want to. I think his leader skill is really good. I think people really underrate just how good this guy is. Like when his passive is fully built up and he has big bad bosses active, like post supering, his tanking is really, really good. And obviously once he's received a certain number of attacks, he then has a Scouter, which is of course an incredibly powerful ability. So yeah, Lord Slug is still very, very good. Against the hardest bosses in the game, especially if we're talking like AGL Jiren, who has type advantage over him, obviously he's not going to be tanking like a super attack from him. But of course the idea would be by that point in the event, you've built up to having his Scouter ability, so he's not going to be the one taking a super attack anyway, right? But I still think STR Slug is really, really good. He's kind of, you know, like I say, he's only at what, like number 7, so he's still not even sort of middle of the pack. But I do still think Lord Slug is very good, and he is at number 7. Number 6, we have the Int Daima Goku. I still think Daima Goku is very, very good. He's not got like this one key shining place that he goes at the moment. There's no real like team builds, I think, at the moment in the meta where you're like, oh, you have to run Daima Goku on this team, but he is really good. That multiple turn support that he gives with his super attack effect, especially considering it stacks if he gets multiple supers, is really useful. He's one of those characters that, because he has extra dodge and damage reduction on turn 1, if you start off with dodgy rotations, you can take the risk and he can come in clutch in slot 1, like getting those dodges. And it's only for the first turn, but it helps you with if you do get a bad starting rotation for the event. So Daima Goku definitely still has a lot of value. Once he gets built up, he's putting out some really good numbers. He's got solid defense that he backs up with dodge. I put him and the Buhan and Slug kind of all in the same color tier. The 2 extreme units, of course, probably being more key units for their extreme teams. And then, you know, there's arguments for switching them around in any sort of order. Like pre-domain with the Super Buu, I would say Tech Buhan is definitely worse than this guy. But post-domain, you could probably argue that he's better. So you could definitely switch them around. They are all in the same color tier, but the Goku is at number 6. So then we move on to number 5. We have Super Saiyan 3 Daima Vegeta. I know loads of people don't like this guy, but again, this comes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the video, where this is largely down to my own experience. Like, I pulled a copy of this guy very close to the pity, so I ended up just doing the last couple of multis and then getting a second copy of him. So I've got him at 69%, and my experience with him has been pretty good. Obviously, I think one of the big arguments that people will make for or against, because some people don't think you should incorporate that in ratings and stuff, but like, you run this guy and you have the LR Super Saiyan 4 Goku from the anniversary next to him, giving him that extra 10% damage reduction, and I've had really no trouble with him, like using him as a slot 1 tank. I think his team is really good, and like some people say, well, you shouldn't rate units, like, you know, not everyone's going to have Super Saiyan 4 Goku, but then you can say the same things about when you think about characters like Cell. Like, if you don't run him with another Cell, or like another big bad bosses character especially, then obviously he isn't going to be as good. So I kind of look at these units not only through my own experience, but obviously that's with me running them on the best setups I can for them to see just how good they can be. So while this guy's not perfect at all, he definitely could have been a lot more powerful, I think, and still not been a super busted character. They should have made, like, if a unit's going to be like this guy goes in slot 1 and he's there to be a slot 1 tank, then that unit should be an absolute defensive wall in slot 1. Like, I wouldn't care if he's not doing that much damage. Like, it doesn't matter that he's got things like additional super attacks. He gets extra crit chance if he's in slot 1 or 2. None of that stuff's really important if he's just meant to be a defensive unit. So I think his defensive capability should have been a lot better. But one thing that people really do overlook as well is the fact that he gives all allies defense for the turn with his super attack, right? The 33% for 1 turn. So if he's in slot 1 and he gets like a triple super, he gives everybody on the rotation 99% extra defense, which is really, really good. So yeah, I think this guy's great. I think he's overhated a little bit. Like, he's definitely not a perfectly designed unit, don't get me wrong, but maybe he is a little bit overhated. I've got him at number 5 now in the next color tier up from Daima Goku, Slug, and Buhan, and he is joined in that tier at number 4 by Cell. So this guy, like, has got to have made the biggest leap based on like the previous tier list, because I think I put this guy in his first tier list when he came out. I think I put him at like 8, and a lot of people were mad that Daima Vegeta and like Daima Goku and stuff were above him. But you gotta remember, like, a lot of the time I do these tier lists with the new characters, and they've only been out for like 2 or 3 days, and I've been doing a bunch of runs with them, trying them out on different teams, and then I do the tier list. This guy, rating him as a leader, where it's like you're using 2 cells, I just think I hate him. Like, he would probably just be lower on the list. But we've got a few extra tournament participants characters. We got the Part 2 LR Pycon. Obviously, even like Hit and Goku, whilst they don't necessarily go perfectly with Cell, are even more tournament participant buffs. Like this guy, when he's the only STR Cell on the team, and with some of these other new tournament participant buffs, I do think he can be quite good. Obviously, his attack stats are nothing crazy like early on, but really the whole point is to get him built up, to have him die and revive, get that active skill that gives him the permanent buff, and then he can look relatively good. He can slot 1 in a lot of situations, especially if he is next to another cell, so obviously running him with the tech cell works really well. Having characters like the LR Pycon that you can throw onto a tournament participant's team, and then once you put that LR Pycon in slot 2 for the first time, he gives tournament participant allies an extra 10% damage reduction for 2 turns. Something like that is a really big buff for this cell. So he can be relatively good. I don't think he's insane, but in his best case scenarios, he can look a lot better than I think some of the other units below him. Obviously, worst case scenario, it fluctuates as well. I put him in the same color tier as the Vegeta because I said when I made the very first tier list, like, in my own experiences with using Daima Vegeta and his team, and then using the double Cell team for like the first couple of days when he came out, STR Cell got me killed way more times than like Daima Vegeta did when he came out. But now, trying him out on some other team builds and stuff, whereas obviously Vegeta is kind of a unit that is very much really locked to being in slot 1, whereas this guy can be a lot more useful, even on teams where if you're running some other Cell characters, and then you have this guy like floating in slot 3, and he's always got like a Cell to link up with and stuff, he can be really good, even if he's not necessarily the best slot 1 sometimes. And the good thing is he can actually do that, whereas Vegeta loses a lot of his value if he's not in slot 1, right? So he's at number 4 for now. I could see arguments for him being switched with the Vegeta, but when it comes to the top 3, I don't think he's better than any of them. The top 3 are all in the same color tier, because I think there's arguments for any one of them being number 1. But we'll start off at number 3. Number 3 is Glorio. Now, Glorio is a unit that I think is, again, interesting to rate in a top 10 list, because a lot of the value for him, I think, comes from his leader skill and from his support. I still think that he has the best in terms of, like, apart from being like a 10th anniversary fusion. Like, if your name's not AGL, Gogeta, or Tech Vegito, then I think this guy has like the best leader skill in the game. Because Demonic Power is a great category, Battle of Wits is decent, Accelerated Battle is really good and keeps getting buffs. All of those 3 categories, he can lead any of those characters, and then floating in slot 3, he supports all of those characters with an insane level of support that just makes all of those units act considerably better. And he's just like, the only downside I think really for him is events that have rotation locking, and they can, but I mean realistically they can mess up your plans for like any of your teams, especially if you are running any characters that want to be in a specific slot. So this guy's absolutely crazy. People still overlook the fact as well that he has that leader skill, he has the like blueprint of like you float him in slot 3 and he just supports everybody, but even his individual performance is really good. Like, I forget sometimes how great he can be and how much he can jump up in one turn, where we had a turn recently on a run and he did like the full 5 supers turn, and by the 5th super he's at like 35 million attack, and not only has he got incredibly high raw defense after that, but then he has a 70% chance to dodge. So really he's only getting killed by like the hardest hitting bosses super attacks if he doesn't dodge them, and his raw defense can get so high that even some fights that disable dodge, as long as he's getting enough supers off during the turn, he's actually still able to tank some of those bosses. The harder hitting bosses like AGL Jiren, obviously it's not quite as easy for him, but Yeah, he's just very, very good. His leader skill is crazy, and the support and everything. I just love his team and his team build. I think if that's the kind of thing you value over other certain types of things like attack power and perform like overall stats, like you could argue that this guy is the best TUR just because of how ridiculous his team build is and just how much it gets buffed constantly. But at number 2, we have the Kid Goku. Kid Goku came out for Saiyan Day and obviously straight away had the markings of being the best TUR in the game. He does have some annoying restrictions, like I don't really like his leader skill, DB Saga or Earthbred Fighters. Obviously Earthbred Fighters can be good, but it's really not a great leader skill, and he needs another DB Saga Youth or Dragon Ball Seeker character in order to get his intro buff, which is an additional super and damage reduction 40% for 7 turns. He definitely does feel a lot worse if he doesn't have that. So if you're running him on like a pure Saiyan team or a Goku family team or something like that, where he doesn't have this character to give him the intro, he definitely is a lot worse. But it's not like that's impossible to do, right? Like if you're running a Goku family, for example, you can have like, you know, a Super Saiyan 2 Gohan on there for the youth category. Like there's ways to get around actually being able to get his passive active. And of course he's a stacking unit, he stacks up really quickly. He has damage reduction. He does have, essentially this is what makes him so good, is 200% defense when receiving an attack. Because a character that can build up, even like once he's got to like, you know, 300-400k defense, which isn't much, and he does get there very quickly, but if he's got 400k defense, it means as soon as he takes his first hit of the turn, he actually has 1.2 million defense, and he has damage reduction. He's just a very, very solid unit, and once he's done 7 super attacks, he has guard permanently, which is really good. He has ways to get additional super attacks, so if you get good RNG, he can be fully built up very, very quickly. And of course he has this interesting passive sort of trigger where basically he has a 55% chance to crit, but once it goes off, he then guaranteed crits for the rest of the turn. So if he crits on like any of his attacks, any follow-up attacks will all be crits, and then he has the 22% chance to dodge within the turn. So as soon as he dodges the first attack, unless of course you've given him hidden potential, because it could be the hidden potential dodge that triggered, but as soon as he dodges the first attack, he then dodges every other attack. So if you've got him in a slot where there's like 5 attacks in front of him and he dodges the first one, you can kind of instantly just relax, because then he just, you know, chills there and dodges every other attack for the rest of the turn, which is really, really good. So he's very, very good. I think the only thing that lets him down, like I say, is his categories and his link set. I think it's a shame that they picked a Kid Goku, but they made him like the episode 1 Kid Goku. I think it would have been a lot better for this guy to have been like from the World Tournament fight with Jackie Chan, or even if they did the Demon King Piccolo fight. I know a lot of people want that as more of like a dual Dokkan Fest with us getting a new Demon King Piccolo, but we got Demon King Piccolo for the anniversary as a free-to-play LR. It would have made sense for them to follow up the anniversary with Saiyan Day and have this be the Demon King Piccolo Goku, so he can at least be on things like Turtle School. I think that would have been a big help. But I think him being a great ape Goku would have actually been ideal as well, with some of the things we got from the anniversary. But he's still very, very good. Like, don't get me wrong. He is absolutely fantastic. He builds up very quickly, and just an overall solid unit. And because he's a Goku, so even if you can't get his intro, like he's on a lot of teams, and he is very, very good. So no surprise, of course, considering he hasn't been mentioned yet. Hit is number 1. Hit is very, very good. It's actually wild to think Hit and Tech Goku released at the same time as a dual Dokkan Fest, when we've got Hit at number 1 and Kaioken Goku fighting to be at number 10, right? Because if you think that Fat Boo, who got his own tier and an honourable mention right at the beginning of the video, if you think Fat Boo is better than Kaioken, then he wouldn't be on this top 10 list at all, right? So that's pretty crazy to think about, but Hit is really, really good. Now, he does suffer from the same kind of issue as Goku, where I don't think his leader skill is the craziest. Universe 6 is still very much like a terrible category, although we are expecting buffs by the end of this celebration. Tech Kale and Caulifla Easy A potentially. The Part 2 LR could be a Universe 6 character. Rapid Growth is a category that has some okay options on it as well, but then Accelerated Battle, as we've already said with Glorio, Accelerated Battle is a really good category that has a ton of really good characters on it, including the 10-year, few of the 10-year LRs. And then he gives the extra buff to tournament participants or super bosses. I don't care much for the super bosses part of his leader skill, because obviously any of the Universe 6 characters like Kale and Caulifla and Kefla who are on super bosses are on tournament participants anyway. And there's not a lot of super bosses characters that are really super relevant anymore. So Hit is very similar to Kid Goku in that his leader skill just isn't that great. It's still good, don't get me wrong. I think it is better than Kid Goku's, I think. I don't know, I guess it just depends whether you think like him having Earthbred fighters is better than Hit having accelerated battle. But then I guess Hit having accelerated battle but then having tournament participants is probably better than the fact that Goku just has Youth or Dragon Ball Seekers as his extra 50%. So there's not a lot in it in leader skills. I think Hit's maybe is slightly better just because of accelerated battle. But this guy does everything, right? He dodges, he crits, he has the action break. Obviously, once he does the transformation, he has the active skill that is a Ghost Usher. He just does everything, right? He's very, very good. And he stacks up very quickly. He's very similar to Glorio in the way that his attack stats will jump up crazy amounts, like with each and every attack that he does. And he just is an absolutely fantastic unit. His link set is a little bit awkward, but he has some good links that you can get active with other solid characters. Obviously, if we do get that Hit and God Goku Easy A, he's going to have a solid, really good link partner, which is going to be very helpful for his teams as well. So yeah, this guy I think is at number 1. It is definitely crazy, like I say, to think that the two units of such differing quality came out in the same celebration as a Jules Dokkan Fest, but there you have it. We have Hit at number 1. So if we take a look at the list, zoomed out here fully in 1 to 10, obviously we've got our honourable mention in Fat Boo. You guys let me know where you think he should be on the list. I haven't put him here because I think he's number 11. It's just, I really don't know where to put him in the list. Like, you could argue that he could be as high as, like, being between this tier with, like, Daima, Goku and Vegeta, right? Like, he could be in between there because of how useful he can be for some events. Or he could be, you know, he could belong at the bottom. I don't really know. So you guys let me know where you would put in Fat Boo if you were to put him into this particular top 10. Even if you disagree with the way my top 10 is, if we look at my top 10 the way it is here on the page, where would you put Fat Boo into this list? But at number 10 we have Tech Kaioken Goku, number 9 AGL Super Saiyan 3 Angel Goku, 8 is Tech Buhan, 7 is STR Slug, 6 Int Daima Goku, 5 Super Saiyan 3 Daima Vegeta, 4 STR Cell, 3 Glorio, 2 Kid Goku and 1 is Hit. As I said already, remember, same colour tiers. I'm perfectly fine. I can see arguments for them being switched around in any way. Like, if you think Daima Goku should be at 8 instead of 6, that's fine. If you think Cell and Vegeta should switch places, if you think like Glorio should be at 1, like that kind of thing. If they're the same colour, then I can see arguments for them being exchanged into sort of any order. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. What does your top 10 look like? And like I say, if you have any disagreements, do let me know why you think so down below in the comment section. As I've said before many times, people who've actually made good arguments and have had good discussions in the comments has led me to change my thinking on some of these things in the past. Because, you know, that's how that works, right? If you actually make valid arguments and make good points, you might actually convince somebody else to change their mind. It's a crazy idea, I know, but let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Give me your personal top 10s and let me know where you would put Int Fat Boo into this list. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.